Hi guys, welcome back to the baseline. Hope you guys are having a great day. So, deport him, jail him. Let's get inside the Musk and Bannon's American meltdown. So stop scrolling for a second. Let's play a game. What happens when the world's richest man and America's loudest political pit bull decide to arrest each other over a holiday weekend? Now, this isn't pretend. It's not satire. This is a real thing that's happening. And it says everything about who really runs the circus and who's paying the price. So buckle up, guys, because by the time we're done, you'll never look at these two guys the same way again. Now, here we are. We're fresh off the, July 4th weekend. I hope you guys had a great fireworks. But half the country right now is nursing hangovers. The other half are wondering if their neighbors' fireworks were actually fireworks or something else. So, and what do we get? We get Elon Musk and Steve Bannon trying to throw each other in jail on Twitter, on social media. It's like a backyard wrestling match, but with subpoenas instead of folding chairs. So now, I know it sounds like a sideshow, right? But this isn't just noise. It's kind of a warning sign, because when billionaires and power brokers start playing Banana Republic cosplay, it's never just about them. It's about how easily they bend the rules, flip the script, and laugh while everyone else foots the bill. Now, what's happened is Elon has stricken first, so to speak. So let's rewind a little bit. Elon Musk, the same guy who promised us Mars and self-driving cars and unlimited free speech, wakes up on Independence Day and thinks, you know what this country needs is another political party, which is actually not a bad idea. I think we probably do. But he fires up on Twitter, he gets a poll or an X poll, whatever you want to call it nowadays, right? And he's asking millions of followers, should we break free from the so-called uniparty and launch a new America party? And a million votes later, 65% yet said yes. And boom, Elon gets exactly what he wants. Headlines, attention, and a pretty significant amount of leverage. But here's the truth. He doesn't want a party. He wants more of a bargaining chip. And nothing's cheaper than a Twitter poll when you've got the richest man alive, trying to create parties. So Bannon hits back. Now enter Steve Bannon, the political brawler who never met a conspiracy he didn't want to monetize in some way. And Bannon's watching Elon sniff around his turf. And the burn it all down crowd, and he snaps. So he does what he does best, right? Rage on camera. He mocks Elon Musk as not even American. He says Elon's South African and he should be deported, and that he's a threat to the real base. So no evidence, no due process of law, just raw muscle politics. Because if you can't beat the richest guy in the world, just call him illegal and hope it sticks. So it's kind of a petty escalation, right? Of course, Elon can't leave well enough alone. Someone tweets, "Deport Bannon," and Elon quotes it with "prison for Bannon." And just like that, the world's richest man is cosplaying as Judge Dredd, sentencing political opponents over Wi-Fi. It's petty. It's also a bit stupid, but it's also the new normal. Now, today's elites don't just disagree. They fantasize about jailing each other, deporting each other, or doing whatever else publicly. And everyone else just kind of shrugs like it's another Tuesday. Now, what are the real crimes here? Now, Bannon's record, let's kind of ground this in some reality, because Bannon has done real dirt. He defied a subpoena from Congress, a simple show up and talk request about January 6th, and he refused that. And he got charged with contempt, fought it in court for years, ran the clock out, but July of 2024, I think the appeal ran dry. Now, he did 4 months in prison for all that. Should he have testified? Sure. I mean, it's a legal subpoena. I think we all have to do that. Now, should he go back now? Well, that's not how it works. You know, criminal contempt punishes the refusal. It doesn't drag you back after you serve your time. So it's good for TV, but to, you know, I don't know, to say he should go back to jail, it's not quite right. Now, the scam that got a pardon, there's another wall, right? So remember, we build the wall. Bannon raised millions from everyday folks, pitched them a dream of a private border wall, but no wall really appeared. But bank accounts got a lot fatter. So co-conspirators were convicted and sentenced, but Bannon, Trump waved the magic wand, the pardon wand, not because he was innocent, but because presidential pardons are the ultimate get out of free jail card, especially when you're well connected, like Steve Bannon is to Trump. But now we're in 2025. Bannon pleaded guilty in New York on state charges for the same scam. He walked with a slap on the wrist. Okay, you know, for whatever reason, people like him, the consequences are always somewhat negotiable. So be it. Now comes the Biden twist, right? And here's where it gets really interesting, because people love to believe pardons are only a Trump problem, but that's not fair either. Because in January 2025, Joe Biden pardoned his own family, 2 brothers, his sisters, their spouses, tax messes, finance fines, swept clean with one presidential signature. So what do we learn from all this? Left or right, doesn't matter what team you're on. If you have the keys to the kingdom, the law is flexible clay in your hands. So what's the real play here? Let's come back to Elon for a moment. Does he actually want to run a 50-state party? I don't think so. I don't think there's a chance of that. He wants a small crew of swing votes. His pitch is pretty simple, you know, like pick 2 or 3 Senate seats and a handful of House districts, just enough to decide close votes. Now, with razor-thin margins in Congress, that's power on tap. Not because you earned the trust of the people, but because you bought the margins. Now, it's elegant in its cynicism, right? And it's legal, which is exactly why it works. Now, comes the point of where we have to consider this, right? The Constitution on the table. If this all sounds extreme, remember, it's not new. Trump floated the idea of terminating the Constitution back in 2022. Angry about imaginary fraud, he wrote, maybe we scrap the rule book. And it was an outburst, but the fact that a former president even said it should, even though he said it, you know, to suspend the Constitution or whatever, it should send chills down everyone's spine. And now his old war chief and the richest man alive are threatening to cage each other because they disagree. And this is kind of how rule of law dies. It's not overnight, it's not in a blaze, but it's somewhat like piece by piece, normalizing the idea that disagreements mean handcuffs, that losing debates mean deportation, that elections are optional if your ego is big enough. So once the door opens, it doesn't close, or at least it's extremely difficult to close it. And if the system can jail Steve Bannon for politics, it can jail anyone. And if it can deport Elon Musk on a whim, what chance do any of us have? Which brings us to the bigger game. Like, it almost is like the Squid Games for real. And here's what nobody says out loud. This is kind of a Squid Game. You and I are the contestants clawing for scraps while the same billionaires and backroom dealers bet on who survives. They want you distracted. They want you rooting for Team Bannon or Team Musk. Because while you're doing that, while you're rooting for one team or the other, They're rewriting the actual playbook. They get to raid the treasury. They trade power like Pokemon cards. And they feed you memes so you don't notice what's happening behind this curtain. So how do you break this game, you know? And I think a lot of it has to come down to stop playing it their way. Like, real change is small, local, it's annoying, but it is powerful. It's volunteering for the city council race, no matter, you know, who's running. Nobody cares about those type of races. It's helping a union drive in a factory they'd rather ship overseas. And it's showing up for one school board meeting so your kid's education isn't decided by lobbyists. They can't pardon that away. They can't tweet that into oblivion. So here's a true story. I don't know if you guys will. Well, let me tell you guys the story. One 17-year-old, you know, he joined a rebellion pack. He knocked on doors for a few no-name candidates in New York. They flipped the seat. Now, did he save democracy? No. But he proved one kid can mess up a billionaire's blueprint. Now, multiply that by 1,000. Now you've got something Elon can't pull his way around. So here's the bottom line. Where does all this land? Because Bannon's not your savior. Musk's not anybody's savior. Neither is Trump. Biden, definitely not. They're players in a game. And they're players in a game you're told you can't win. But you can. And that's why they keep you fighting each other so much. So you don't remember your real power. This country is called the United States for a reason. And the second we remember that, they lose. So don't cheer when they threaten each other with jail. Don't celebrate when they threaten each other with deportation. I think it's up to us to demand better from them, from ourselves, and from each other, right? Because if we don't stand up for due process of law when it's ugly, you won't have it when it's your turn. And always imagine if it was you. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching The Baseline. We only succeed when we help each other see more clearly, think more deeply, and act more wisely together. And I really appreciate you guys watching, and we'll catch you on the next round, guys. All right, cheers, everybody.